So hi everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Gamedev Insights, a space in which we host game dev folks to discuss their work and how their work contributes to better games. Today we will be talking about UI and UX design, those key elements in the game creation process, because having an appealing storyline, stick mechanics, and good graphics is not enough to keep the players from deleting your game. Nobody wants to deal with unintuitive interfaces and unresponsive design. And because of that, we're really happy to host Marta Fleter, a UI UX designer from Poland that has been in the games industry for over 7 years. She is currently working at CD Projekt Red. Marta has built her way from a graphic designer to UI and then to UX designer, and she knows how to provide players with a comfortable experience while they are in the game, allowing them to be more engaged and play it for a longer period of time. She also has several successful release games under her belt to back that all up. So Marta, welcome. We're really happy to have you here with us.
Really happy to be here. I mean, I hope I'm going to be useful for you on this interview and give some insight about what is this elusive UX, right? Because I guess it's not really actually still clear even in this industry, what is that magical word of the UX, right?
Exactly. So, now, we have all the time in the world, to demystify it and, hopefully, make some people interested in following your path. Cool. So, let's dig in, so what is UX design actually? And, how does it, what is its function in the process of making a game?
So, it's actually the most hardest question to answer because UX is such a broad thing to squeeze it into one sentence or whatever. But basically UX stands for user experience, and it's a process of making a certain product. In our case, it's a game, useful for the player, understandable, and meaningful for it. So you're just going to engage with the product or a game, and you're going to have a good time using it. It's not going to be a chore for you in any way. And it's also the art of problem solving, because you can't really achieve what I just said, the usefulness or meaningfulness, if you don't really know what target do you strive for. So for who is this product? So, and what problems can occur? So actually UX is a lot of different things. It's not only the designing certain solutions, but also finding those solutions, researching the solutions, etc. And I think that's the short answer, I think, about what is UX.
Okay. And you're why is it so, and why is it so important in the game creation process?
I mean, so you can find UX people in the development process in mostly speaking, because it still varies a lot whether you're making a small game, a big game, and what kind of a studio you're in. But so UX is this idea of helping the bigger goal of the development. You are the support class of your team. And you can find UX people in research, in testing, and in development. And the development process is the UI phase, when you're actually doing the wireframes and planning what should happen on the screen, etc. But UX is also a big part of testing, when you already have solutions or designs to show it to some user and maybe pick up some problems with it and try solutions. But also it's the very first phase, the research. So it's also in the very first stage of planning the project, what game are we actually wanted to even make. So the UX designers or the UX researchers, because that's also a UX thing, help research the player expectations of certain genres, or solutions that's supposed to be in a game. So you can find UX people all around. And in game development, historically, UX design was not very much done about UX people. Like from maybe a few years, I can say, like from now on, it was mostly a task like made by game designers. But because like making games is getting harder and harder, and games are getting bigger and bigger, so like the people like that's making those games need to have more broad like experience in many different fields, so we can make better games. And so yeah, so that's how UX like puts itself into the development.
Okay, cool. And since UI and UX usually go, hand in hand.
Yeah.
What would like? Is it what would you say like is more important, like like good UX or good UI?
Well, I mean, I don't want to like get any UI designers mad at this point, because I still consider myself very much a UI designer as well, like a UI generalist. Actually, like I do all the stuff, but UX, definitely UX, because like the biggest difference between like UX and UI is that the UI part is very much about like the visual design of a thing. And if you have solid, like, what it's called, man, I'm looking for this word, foundations for your design, then like the UI can be great, because you have this spark of idea, you have these foundations, and UX is what gives these foundations to the UI design. So actually, I think like why UI can be perfect, but it's never like separated from UX, So it's very important to have this nailed down.
Okay. And now, me being a recruiter, like I work a lot on both like UI and UX roles. And I can tell you that it is really hard to find a good designer.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, like you guys are in really high demand. So what do you think, like, why is that?
Why is that we are in so high demand?
Why are you in such high, why are you in such high demand?
I mean, I guess it's a very interesting thing, because like it's maybe UX designers are in a high demand, and I'm kind of hearing about this like for years right now, but it's still pretty hard to get into UX, like to have like your first job. And I think that's mostly because like still, I mean, we're talking about game development specifically. I think that the role of UX designer is still very fuzzy in its definition. Like you can be a UI UX designer, and you go in one company and they expect from you very different things than in another. So I think that's maybe because people would like to specialize in like a raw UX thing and maybe not very focused on UI, but especially smaller companies like expect that you're going to be like someone that does all of the stuff, and that's not wrong in any case, but still. And there are few of us in game development, also because I think there still exists a barrier of knowledge. Like UX in game development per se is something relatively new, because like just as I said before, like the role of designing UX or UI was basically always pushed onto artists or game designers, and the game industry strive on that. Like it was good enough, but like since games got bigger and bigger and more ambitious, and more people like need to like go into this development, so I think the game industry is starting to learn from other industries, like what they can benefit from, maybe people that weren't originally in this industry, So researchers, for example, and this kind of people. And there is still not enough knowledge even on the internet or like academically or something, like what a UX designer can actually give to the game development. Yeah, because like even if I when I started, I had a hard time to even like defining for myself what is actually like expected from me as a UX designer, because as I said, like a lot of people have different ideas what it is. So I think this is like the most like influential thing, or what is hard for a good UX designer to find in this industry, because there are not enough of us, because we are very like, we are all over the place. We like UX designers are doing UI, UX designers are doing research, and maybe it's based on expectations. Like we need to define in this industry, like what is a UI designer and what is a UX designer. And then maybe people will start schooling themselves better in those disciplines per se. And maybe then we're going to have more of us. But yeah, I mean, I hope like me being on this interview would give some idea actually to younger people, because I know that people like would want to go into UI and UX, but they are discouraged because it sounds hard and scary and not very understandable, but actually it's kind of enjoyable and not that hard at all to do.
Yeah, and let's like stay on that. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about your journey, because during our previous meeting, you really emphasized how how after this many years you still are so excited about the things that you do, like the projects that you're involved in. Whenever you talk about work, like you have like this huge smile on your face. So why don't you tell us how your journey actually looked like, because you started off as a graphic designer, and then moved on to to being a UI designer, and then to a UX designer position. So could you give us more details about about that? Let's encourage some young souls to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, let's do it. So firstly I would like to say that like graphic design, because I actually have like a bachelor degree in graphic design, and I was starting with web design and apps. Like that was the thing that I thought we would be doing for like my career life. Like that was what I thought. And for me, like going into game industry was still like a dream that maybe is not that accessible for everyone. And boy, what I was surprised that actually like there's a lot of gaming companies around there that's recruiting. And I wanted to try out myself, like after like being a graphic designer in web design for like 1.5 years, like full time actually, because let's skip the freelance part and like studying itself. I decided to go to game industry, and I was a graphic designer at marketing, where I learned a lot about player research and etc. So like even user testing, because like we in marketing even have like those sessions with play tests, when we have like demos of our games, etc. And having this like knowledge about like research and testing from the marketing perspective, and having like my background in graphic design and web design, it like concluded very nicely into like being a UX designer. Because actually like from after like few years in game development and I was in marketing, like I really started to actually do games, not only like support them, but actually like go into the development. And like 5 years ago or so, I decided that I want to be a developer. And based on my experience from marketing and game and graphic design, I mean, let's go to UI and let's start like the career path here. And first I tried, if I even can understand like what is this fuzzy all about. So game jams, and actually learning the process of making games, because you will not learn how to make games better than on game jams. And believe me, that's not only like sleepless nights and a lot of fun, but actually like a super knowledgeable thing to do. And I decided to like just go away from marketing, not look for a job when like a time came that it was a time to part and maybe switch some jobs, etc. And I decided to look for full-time jobs in UI. And I built up a portfolio with that specifically. And here in Warsaw, I actually like landed my first job. So that's how it happens.
So yeah, this is like a really big, let's call it like an issue for up and coming, for people who want to get their first job in in the game dev industry, to work in games. There is like a question of portfolio, because companies usually are looking for some in-game examples of UI and UX. So you're saying that in order to build up your portfolio, you participated in these game jams, and this is what you included there?
Yeah, I mean, that was also what I included there. But actually, for my portfolio, it's not that much easy to actually I struggle even to this day, to make a presentable portfolio with UI UX designs. I had the same problems with websites. I have the same problem with games, because how do you actually put in a portfolio a screen of a game? But you're not going to put an asset board with all the icons that you made for the game. Besides, icons is just a very small part. But I knew that UI UX is not about the pretty art. It's not about the pretty frames that you have on your UI. It's basically yes, it's super important that it looks nice, but how do I even show my process of thinking? Because for the UI UX designer, I think that even more important, to show the process. And so basically I wrote a small design document for myself, just to have a grip, how do you even construct those things, because that is a huge part of being a UX designer as well, writing documents. And based on that document, it gave me a frames of what game I'm actually designing. And based on that document, I built wireframes in a wireframing tool, Adobe XD in my case. And then based on that, a final render of a screen, of a UI. And I put that process in my portfolio. And actually, it was very successful, because that showed everything that is actually needed in this position, the process you think, not only the final product,
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That is really a really great piece of advice, for anybody looking to, not just to get into the games industry, but to approach this problem of, how do I structure my work in a, in a good way. So now that you have landed your first job in the games industry as a UI designer, what happens from there?
So what happens from there? So you quickly realize that you're going to do a lot more than just wireframes and high fidelity assets in Photoshop for UI. If you want to be an asset for the team, and actually the team will probably ask you very quickly to do that, you're going to jump straight into game engines to help build the UI into Unity or Unreal Engine. In my case, that was Unreal Engine. And I mean, it sounds scary, and I was scared a lot when that was asked of me. But from perspective of time, I see that it was a very good thing to know, because first of all, it's not that actually it's not that scary. You have great tutorials and guides on the internet how to use the UMG designer, and how to create designs and blueprints for UI, specifically in Unreal Engine. You start to talk to game designers more. You start to know the process of making UI from the programmer's perspective, because you talk to them more, and so it gives you as I said pretty much earlier, the knowledge of how games are actually made is very crucial, and that is given to you with this. And yeah, so that was the first bigger challenge as me as a UI designer, because actually everything else came pretty naturally. Because if you have background in graphic design, it's not going to be scary for you. It's just learning the process that you need to go through, which is firstly, you have game designer that comes to you with a documentation or a request for a feature that our game is going to have this and this. you prototype this feature in, like, for example, in my case, Adobe XD. That's very like awesome for it because you can make a full working prototype in Adobe XD, clickable with animations, etc., and you can like test it with game designers like out of the box. Then you take that prototype into Photoshop and you make the UI pretty. And then you cut the assets and then you go to Unreal Engine, and that's it. Like, that's the full flow. So it was just sticking to that and training, like learning as you go, because there's no way to learn stuff than just doing them, right? And my first game just happened. I don't really even know when. It was such a like right. It was Urban Trial Tricky, by the way, at Tate Multimedia. It's a Switch exclusive. So it was like also like the challenge of optimizing the game for Nintendo Switch, which is not that like obvious. But yeah, that gave me, it was scary, but it was fun. So try to have joy in what you do, and it's going to go great. And believe in yourself, because you're going to have people around you in your team that wants to do as a good game as you want. So everyone is playing for the same goal. And if you remember that, and like, you're going to click, you're going to just do all your best, and
it's going to be a bit less scary.
It's going to be a bit less scary. Like, I mean, seriously, like for me, a game changer is like in perceiving game development as a whole is to always remember that, yes, we are a team. We really strive for the same. Like, we have different perspectives. We are doing different things in this project. We maybe have some different visions on some parts, but in the end, we all strive to do the best game that we can, right? And having this in mind really like helps a lot, like getting along. So remember that, really.
Knowing that you're not alone in the process, helps.
And don't be afraid to ask. Like, really, people have answers for you. If you don't know, like, I didn't know a thing about like Unreal Engine. Like, I was absolutely like seeing this thing for the very first time, and I just got the job because I didn't expect it. And if it wasn't for the very like super cool support for programmers and our game designers that just showed me around, and YouTube tutorials, of course, but still, like, it's always cool to have those friends in the corner, and they are there. Just ask, ask, make friends. It'll be fun. It'll be all right.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Like, universal advice, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it like in more detail, in more detail later. But now that you mentioned like the games that you have worked on, so I know that you have worked on multiple platforms. So yeah, PC, console, mobile games. You have worked on premium games, on free-to-play games. So and also, like you mentioned, that a big also like learning curve for you was working on a premium game, like from beginning to end, and then coming to a project like Gwent, which is a live game. So like looking back, could you give us could you share more detail about like all the differences between working on these like types of games and different platforms? Like, what are the challenges that you encounter on premium games or on free-to-play games? Yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so actually, like, if I can pinpoint one point in my career that was a turnaround, it was definitely like switching from premium to free-to-play. Like, I was warned that, don't be scared, but it's going to be very different. And I was like, what's different? It's still a game, right? It is very much different to develop UI UX for a live product than a actual like game that you're going to do into start and finish. And the most like the thing that changes the most is that you need to start thinking about a finished product that you build upon. So even like the game, when it was developed before release, actually, well, you will need to think about making the experience very flexible, because you never know how this game is going to evolve and in which parts. And so this is like the first challenge. I mean, I know you can say that every UI or UX should be in a way flexible. I mean, and that is true because game design isn't iterative. I mean, it involves a lot of like iteration, you know, and changes. But it's even more in free to play because there are evolving games that can change in very drastic ways sometimes. And so this is the first part that was pretty much challenging. But actually, like I came to Gwent when it was like actually also, I mean, I jumped into Gwent when it was already released. So my challenge in this project was to build upon what is already the foundation over there. And making features for Gwent, the game that actually exists, is challenging. It's challenging because you need to take into consideration the player base that already exists, the expectations that already exist, this art guide that already exists, and the technical difficulties that the project was made in. Like, these are like the frames that you need to accommodate in thinking about the design process. So that's very different than making a premium game from start to finish, because you have this freedom that you actually like doing it from scratch, and you don't need to worry that much about what is going to happen with your product and like when you release it. So like a 180 switch, actually, like in mindset alone.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. And like do things like get like more complicated once you actually like join. Let's call it like a bigger company, a bigger team. Also, like how those like how does that differ? Like being like the only UI UX person like on the team, and then like working with with a team of people on the on the same things.
Well, it's definitely the most difference was that I stopped feeling alone in what I do. Because when I joined Gwent, I joined a team of existing UI UX designers and artists. And it was pretty refreshing because every idea that I had, like every problem that we need solving, was like 2-3 heads is always more than one. You could discuss your problems and your ideas with someone. And that's the biggest game changer. Because when it comes to the whole development process, I think you like in bigger company, you do less in a way that you stop multitasking that much. So in smaller companies, because there are fewer people, so you need to do more on your place where you are. You need to like a UX designer probably just going to do everything that we said before, right? The research, the testing, the development, the UI, the assets, maybe even some designing in the engine by one person. Like in bigger companies, it's not like that at all. Like you specialize in one particular thing or a process, and you do that process. And so right now in the Gwent, I'm mostly designing features in the way that I receive from the game designer a request. I'm doing the wireframes and the prototype of how this feature should fit into the existing game. And then I'm making assets based on our art guide that already exists. And I'm making the documentation for other people to implement it. Like right now, I'm not touching the engine actually. So this is the most different between small companies and big companies. Like the amount of stuff you actually do, but the tempo is higher. Like I can definitely say that. I mean, it's only my personal experience, but the tempo of work. I mean, you have smaller chunks of work to do, but in a faster way you need to deliver, because like the job is bigger, right? I mean, the project is bigger, so I mean that's kind of understandable. So that's why more people are working on them, because there's more to work on. But it lets you specialize. So working on a big company, you can cherry pick actually what you actually want to work on. and, you know, don't be forced to do stuff that maybe you're scared or don't wanna.
Okay, and wireframing and prototyping and documentation, writing documentation, like, are those like the things that you're like most passionate about when it comes like to UX design? Like, what have you like cherry picked for your, you know, if you could like cherry pick, what would you pick for yourself?
I mean, that's pretty hard to actually cherry pick, because like I like various stages of the development. Like, definitely I don't really like research and testing because I don't think I'm that good at it. But wireframing and prototyping, like a feature that is requested, it's super satisfying. And dressing it up in UI, super satisfying. And also, like when I had the opportunity to design something in Unreal Engine and put like those blueprints into like my design and see it live. Oh, I mean, that was the most satisfying thing to developing. I mean, it's super satisfying to see your work alive, like always. Like, if I see like a small widget that I planned or a bigger feature that we planned, and I see our awesome programmers do it in the Gwent, and I download, I mean, I update the game on my phone or PC, and I see it there, like it's the best. It's the best moment of every aspect. It wasn't like a small thing; it's a bigger thing. So yeah, those are the things that I like the most. So actually, yeah, so wireframing and making assets, because that's the most creative part of the whole process, that you actually need to stop, think, and draw and plan. That's the coolest part.
Okay, so you know, like, I think that's like actually like, you know, like people who are looking at UX design, like, you know, from the outside, might not think about it as, you know, like as creative as as you say it is. So I'm wondering, like, what are what's like the biggest nonsense that you have like heard about like UX design so far?
I mean, the biggest nonsense that I heard in my life, that our company don't need UX, right? Yeah. So, but that's very like, you know, let's not go into those things, because actually this company sooner or later will realize that UX is part of the development mindset, actually, not a thing, right? But actually, yes. So I think hiring someone on the especially late stage of a project and telling them to do me some UX. Like, how can you do a UX, you know?
Do some UX.
Do some UX. So I mean, that's the most controversial thing I
like it. It's like
heard.
going like to the butchers, you like, give me some UX.
Yeah. So because it's not like UX is not a thing that you can give to someone or make or something. It's like, it's a process. If it's a mindset that you need to have, like, at least from like halfway to the project existing. So that's that's the only thing that comes to my mind, actually, right now, when it comes to UX. I'm thinking about UI as well.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about like the biggest nonsense you've heard about UI as well.
About UI, that it's that good UI is invisible. Like, that's a cliche that I heard a lot of times during my career, whether like on whatever stage I was. And I heard it like multiple times, that, oh, you know, but good UI is the one that you don't see, and etc. And it's like, true, but also not, because it depends. Like, I know that people probably are telling this because they want to give the impression that, hey, because good UI can, I mean, you should not go into the player's way. I mean, it's there to help the player and not like, you know,
to make things harder.
Make the things harder. But a big part of the UI is to actually be seen, but be very nicely incorporated into the world of the game, that you won't like be interfered by it, but you're definitely going to see it, right? Because UI is a part of the game that's communicating directly to the player. Like it's the means of communication between the man and the machine, right? Actually, like UI, because how can you like know what are the drills, like what are your objectives, what they're supposed to even do if there would be no UI, right? And also like UI is not about just making pop-up windows and main menus. Like it's so much more. It's it is those health bars, it is those menus, but it's also like a lot more, and it depends on what you want to achieve in your project. Sometimes UI can be absolutely crazy and not even like an interface element at all, like the elusive and the most popular the spine in Dead Space, right? I mean that's like the thing that people are referred to the most times, like because it's a UI element. It shows you your health, but it's on the back of the player character, and you so like. But look how many like design choices they needed to be made in the project to pull that off. Because even like the camera angle that you need to see the back of your character all the time, like it was a very tough thing to do, and they made it. Yeah, so that's why I guess that's the most popular example. But is it invisible? No. Is it believable? Yes, because it's like in the word of the game. So UI can be something very different and not always invisible. Like don't think about it like that.
Cool. And could you maybe like provide us like with some more examples of like, you know, of games that in your opinion really have like outstanding UI and UX design? You know, like have you ever, you know, like what games have you played and told yourself, I wish I had, you know, like I wish I had designed this, you know, like, because it is so smart, it's so intuitive, it's so responsive.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard question, but only because like I'm a person that likes everything. Like I play a game, and even if something is clunky and not that very, very good, I try to see all the good decisions that happened over there. And basically, like when it comes to visual design, let's focus firstly on that. Definitely it's going to be Dishonored. Because like, as I said, like, you can ask like, why Dishonored? Like this UI is all over the place. Like you have all those, you have 4 or 5 different fonts in this UI, all those shapes, and you know, here is a paper, here is like something else, and brushstrokes, like whatever. And you're like, that's the point. This game is in its like nature and visual development very chaotic, sometimes unsettling, but very artistic, you know, and a good UI should fit into this world. Like it should be a part of it. Like it doesn't matter if it's just like an interface that, you know, you don't see an interface on your ceiling or whatever in your house, but try to incorporate your designs as much as possible into the game world. And Dishonored does it perfectly. Like it's all over the place, but it's still very much good in navigating it. And it just fits so well. I need to give a shout out also to Ubisoft games, especially the latest Assassin's Creed games. Like I see that's also that's only my personal like hunch that I have, but I think that they're using some established patterns in the UI design, and I think that those patterns are very well made, that you basically can take a screenshot of like the inventory of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, make a grid out of it, and whatever UI you're going to make on this grid, it's still going to be perfect. So like they have this graphic design nailed perfectly in those games. Like, but I'm talking about like the latest, etc. So, but when it comes to UX, it's actually like hard for me to pinpoint anything like right now. Yeah, I think I'm going to just be because I cannot have any. I don't have any examples in my head right now, like at this very moment, because I already used Dead Space. So, and like, I mean, that's the perfect example, because it's like, it's a very, but games have experience all over the place, and that's why it's hard to pinpoint very good UX, because if you are playing a game and you're feeling a certain emotion that the game is trying to deliberately put you in, that means that some UX has been put into it. That means that because UX is narrative design, UX is the level design, is the game design. Like, it's a mindset that you strive for to give the player the best experience it can have with your product. So it's hard to pinpoint, because if a game is good and it feels good and you like playing it, it doesn't it doesn't feel like a chore. That means it's got a very good UX. That's it. Like, it's simple, but that's true.
Seamless. Okay, cool. And going back to the visual part of it all,
Yeah.
Are there like any design trends at the moment that you really dislike?
Design trends, yeah.
Yeah, and would you and do you care to name them and explain why?
There are, but actually, I kind of understand why there a thing. But if you pick a random AAA game, a random realistic AAA game, what is the UI going to look like? It's going to be black shadows with white icons on it. And that's it's easy, because how can you put a believable UI into a realistic world? You try to make it invisible and fit to all this. But I think it's starting to get really boring, because you see a UI like that and you can't even identify, is it from Uncharted or is it The Last of Us? I don't know, it's an UI, right? So give it some identity. It's also a big part of the design process. And actually, it was a pretty much challenging thing for me to do when I was designing the UI for Chaotic Kangaroo. And I wanted the game to be stylized in UI, but not as much as those games from the 90s that have everything rendered in wood and put some bananas into the UI because that's Donkey Kong or whatever. But at the same time, I wanted to do it minimalistically, but have it some identity. And it was hard. It was hard because even when I was doing research for games of this scope, everything was on the spectrum, either super stylized or not stylized at all. So those are the things that I think we need the middle ground in UI per se.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Marta, how do you actually keep up with all that is happening and trending in the industry? What are your go-to resources to get to learn what other people are doing? What will be the next good thing to to use or to implement? Because you being knowledgeable and informed about what is happening is very important. Because you're there to translate this vision. So how do you do that?
I mean, the first and the most awesome thing that you need to do when you're a developer, you need to play games. Just need to know what is out there right now, what is being called out by the players and the industry as good examples and good trends. And so, for example, right now, I see that we as an industry are going more and more into the way of being more inclusive. And it comes also on the UX part. And it was actually it was something eye-watering for me a bit when on Game Awards this year, there was even a category with the best innovation, I guess, for accessibility. And God of War got this reward. And when I saw the amount of work that was put into this game to make it more accessible for people with visual impairing or something like that. And it was just amazing. It was really amazing work that was done. So if you see that right now it's kind of expected from your game to have a colorblind mode, to have some fonts to change them in size for people that maybe don't see those small, like you need to go with this wave. And we are the change. If people demand it, developers give it, it's out there. You should think about maybe having it in your game. But keeping up with the trends is also like beside playing, because you're not going to have maybe that much time to like, for all this 150-hour game to play. You just need to see what's out there at this moment and analyze those products. There are websites that you can check what UI is on certain games. Like you don't need to. A few years ago, I was making my own UI catalog. Like I was grabbing some game and screenshotting it all to hell, like every screen, like, and having like a big backlog of just screenshots and videos from games. Right now, there are websites that do it for you. So keep on track with that, and keep on track with technology in a way. I mean, you kind of have to have it as your hobby, I would say. I mean, because if you need to be in the internet for such a long days, I mean, so many hours a day and research stuff, and you're going to research a lot of things just to stay in the loop, then maybe you could get burned out pretty fastly. But if you like it, like if you're genuinely like interested in what's new in neuroscience or psychology, and what's new there in game development and technology, and what's new Unreal is pushing to its Unreal Engine, etc., and you're going to just have fun. But you need to put the time into research, and luckily there are places in the internet that makes your research easier.
Cool. And can you maybe point us to some of to some of those places, like websites, books, and also like the tools that you think are necessary for a good UX designer to know?
So definitely I have a lot of things to definitely I have a lot of stuff that I would love to share with anyone that would like to get this knowledge deeper into them. So firstly, let's go with books. I mean, if you would like to start being somewhere around UI UX, you definitely need to check some design principle books, like something about typography, something about Gestalt, and how the laws of design information on the screen, right? This is your basics. But I really encourage you to read the book from Celia Audin, The Gamer's Brain. If I remember correctly, she is actually a neuroscientist that gets herself into development and was working on Fortnite, from all the things as well. And she is super knowledgeable about UX processes, and her book is everything you need to know about the research, the mindset, the emotions that you want to have in the development to in your players. So this, and if you maybe not into UX but more into UI, Google Nick Slott, formerly from Blizzard, but right now on its own company. He on Promised Land did a very cool talk about what is UI UX in games, and actually he also had a stream for Adobe about and showing the process of using Adobe XD and Photoshop in doing a UI for a game, a mock-up. They just came up with a game, a Halloween themed game, and made it on stream. So you can get a better knowledge than those two. So basically this, and when it comes to the websites, so Laws of UX is a book, but also a website that is a collection of all the good practices that you have when designing your screens. So this is the first one. and the ones with all those screenshots and videos from other games that just researched for you. And these are interfacing games. And the second one, I don't remember the URL, but I think I'm going to just post this bibliography to you like after our interview, because it's very it's worth checking out, like all of them.
Awesome, thanks. Like, we will also make sure like to list all of your recommendations in the description of the video. You know, like so it is, you know, like out there for, as we said, like all the souls that are, you know, like thinking of following your footsteps. Cool, Marta. Thanks a lot for, you know, like for sharing your like tips, tricks, and insights. And, you know, like as my final question, I, you know, would like to ask you, you know, like looking back, what is the advice that you would give to your, you know, to your younger self? Besides, don't be scared.
I mean, in my like for me personally, that is the most the most valuable lesson I got throughout the years, to just don't be that insecure about yourself, but like talk to people more. Like, don't think that you can achieve something on your own. And like strive for it, to do everything like only by yourself, because people out there would like to help you. People are out there, don't bite. and really just ask around, look for the knowledge, and, you know, don't isolate yourself from help, because really the world is full of cool people like that will even review your portfolio if you just write to them. Or just, you know, go to events more and meet people and see how development is work. And also, it's also for me personally, but don't be afraid of game engines. Like, just watch how the drills work on YouTube or etc. Anything you want. Like, I mean, Unreal, Unity, Godot, like whatever works for you. Just get the drills, know how the processes make, and try to have fun with it. Because I mean, it's true. Like, being in the game development, it's a special kind of an industry, because it's an industry that you work a lot. I mean, it is a demanding industry. It's not like you're going to just sit and, you know, scroll your Facebook all day or etc. just because you buy the PC. It's demanding, but it's very satisfying. And just try to have fun and not stress about it, because everyone around you is as stressed as you are. So we all want to do our best.
Yeah, we have our, you know, like stress support group around us.
Yeah. So don't be. Just try to have fun and chill. Also take care of your back a little bit more when you were younger. Right now I'm 30, and I like. Going to yoga was the best idea in my life, probably. So yeah, go earlier.
And also like invested in a good chair.
Oh yeah. That's also. I mean, I think those things are at the same moment very underestimated and talked a lot on the internet. But talking and doing is not the same thing. Like, oh, you need to get a better chair, or you need to go like stretch things. Yeah, I know that, but I'm still not doing it. So, but please do. Like, really, it's a lot. You're going to thank yourself when you're older.
And you like with a healthier back, you know, like you'll be able like to make games, you know, for a longer period of time. So yeah, it's a win-win situation. Cool, Marta. Thank you so much for, you know, taking the time to be our guest. Really, it's been, you know, like a pleasure, you know, to talk to you, and thank you for for showing me, you know, like what UX is all about. What is it that you do? And most importantly, you know, like I enjoyed most listening to you when you were, you know, like talking about like how you approach, you know, how you look at the process, you know, like how you approach the problem. I think, you know, like that's a skill that cannot you know, shouldn't be applied just like to UX. So yeah, thank you so much for being
Thank you for having me. It was a really pleasure. Like, can I say something at the end? Actually, like, yes, I would like to encourage everyone that is striving to go into UI and UX to if you really want, if you want to have a friendly face in this industry and you need some feedback, write to me. Like, I'm really out there for you, all the young people that try to go into UI. I know that it may sound sometimes overwhelming because there's a lot of like knowledge to grasp, to get into it. But if you would like to have a portfolio review, if you would like to have a tip or something, write to me. I'm going to leave an email to you to the end of this interview. And yeah, because there should be a lot more of us than we are. As you said, Ljubica, like we are still looking for fresh talents like in the UX industry. So let's make them.
Yeah. Let's make people join the UX side. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For all of those listening, thank you for sticking around, and make sure to follow Marta and to check out like all the games and all the books and all like the websites that she recommended. Those will be very, very useful. Also, make sure to follow 8-Bit and stay tuned for the next episode of Gamedev Insights. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thank you.